From Bermuda? Yay, thank you. Yeah. Mhm. I like this layout. This is nice. Okay, so just as we get started, we do have some announcements. So I would like to say, watch this space. Tombolo Research is going to be doing some pretty exciting things. So last time I spoke to you, I think you might remember my lovely pink pegboard that you saw behind me. But today I have some lovely fashionable curtains, and there's a reason for that. It's because I'm temporarily, Tombolo and I are moving to Bermuda just for a little while, mainly to, as you know, there's a lot of conflicts happening in the Middle East at the moment. And because of that, I wanted to move back home just for a little while, just while things cool down, and then I will head back there. But for the meantime, while I'm here, as I've seen so many of you enjoying the webinars, thank you so much for joining me, I've decided to take it on the road. So we're going to be doing them live here in Bermuda with some of our more corporate partners, and of course, anybody else that is interested in learning more about AI. So definitely watch this space, and we'll be sharing more about the course that we're going to be sharing, and the registration link will go live within the next 2 weeks or so. Hopefully sooner, but within the next week for sure. And if you want to learn more about it, you have to watch the space on my website, tomboloresearch.ai. Oh, hello from London, Shay. Shay's back again. So previously at Tombolo Research, we talked all about world models, which is a really exciting topic because now we're looking at AI outside of the LLM space. Researchers like Jan LeCun, for example, are betting on the fact that AI can't just learn from a language alone. It needs to have the whole world at its disposal, the physics behind it. And recently, he actually talked about how the physics needs to evolve in order for the AI models to develop further. So the last time we met, we talked about World Labs, which is the startup that he's just launched. And also we looked at Waymo, which is an exciting driverless car that's really cool. And they're also using World Labs, world models to be able to learn and train with. But the things we didn't get to talk about were NVIDIA Omniverse. This is NVIDIA using the different simulations to be able to make world models so that robots can train in there. I think maybe if you guys saw the Disney's Olaf just got turned into a robot by NVIDIA, which is really cool. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's actually really fascinating. And Genie 3, so Google is also joining on, and they have their own world model. I think the biggest news is probably this headline. So OpenAI is shutting down its Sora video app just months after launch. So you guys remember Sora. And if you don't remember it, this is OpenAI, like ChatGPT's parent company. They are the ones, they made this app where you can use Sora, their video generation model, as a social media. So you can use like other people's images, your own images, and create like fun, cool AI videos. And now they're taking it down because one, it's too expensive. But two, they're also claiming that they're going to be looking at world models. So it's interesting how the market is changing and people are starting to shift towards the world models rather than the LLMs that we're all used to. Oh, Shane in the comments says, when Omniverse got launched and saw the demo of Olaf, mind blown. Me too, it was really cool. Like how they used it to be able to do like millions, I think, of simulations of the robot in the simulator before coming into real life. So it's really exciting. That's a topic for another day. So last time we met, you had some questions and I didn't get to answer them all. So let's go through these today. So you asked, how do we prevent AI from learning the wrong lessons in simulation? Anybody have any thoughts about like how we can get it to learn the wrong lessons, and what would you consider the wrong lessons to be as well? So in my opinion, I think that we have, if we're going to be able to like prevent it from learning the wrong lessons, first, like I said, we need to define what the wrong lesson actually means to us. Like, what are our values? And so the core idea is design with checks. So checks that are based on our values as people and also as companies and businesses that are looking at implementing world models as well. So how do we curate and shape the simulation? So it reflects like its incentives, constraints. What does failure mean and what does it look like? You need to design all of those things as well. Look at any adversarial or like edge case scenarios, things that you wouldn't expect, which is why you have to let it kind of go loose and see where it ends up. So you can start to see what kind of weird things you may not have expected are coming in there and how can you kind of lock those down and prevent them from happening. And also continuously validate in real world tests. So a lot of these things perform differently, of course, in the real world versus how they would in the simulation. As much as the world model tries to, emulate the physics of the real world, there's nothing like the real thing. So it's important for the models to also be trained on real world situations and also scenarios. The second question you had was what happens when simulated training doesn't match the real world complexity? So again, there's nothing quite like the real thing. So this could be when it happens when you fail to generalize. So for example, that for the AI people, they know what that means already. But if you were in my course last year, you know what it means. But if you're failing to generalize, then you wouldn't be able to apply. The model can't work in different situations. So it's overfit. Basically, it just means that it's stuck in one situation. And if you give it something new, it won't be able to handle it. It won't know what to do with it. It'll just try to put it into the box that it already has, which isn't the greatest, especially if there are some like more complex situations that you want it to adapt to and learn from. So you need to help it to generalize a bit more. And the best way to do that is to help it to avoid things like simulation specific habits. So things that are constantly happening in the simulator, it might start to get used to that and think that that's a real world thing and start to implement it in its behaviors. You want to look out for that and avoid that as well. Yeah, so gradually increase the realism, like don't give it everything at once and look out for like messy situations. Again, giving it more edge cases to practice with would be exciting as well. Let me go back and double check. I'm not missing anyone in the chat. Shay says, I consider the data provided has to be controlled and context specific, and anything outside of that pretext would be considered learning wrong. I agree with you. So I think it's like, thinking about what does learning wrong mean and really making sure that you define that before the model gets trained. Because it'll be harder to change it later than it will be if you make sure you really flesh it out before you start training the model. Okay, that takes me to today's topic, the landscape, AI and robotics in healthcare today. Now, I am particularly excited by this topic because I actually did my bachelor's in biomedical engineering and I continue to fall back into healthcare because for me, my ultimate goal is to get into surgery and robotics eventually, which is why I love Tombolo research and that we started it because it gives me the opportunity to really explore all of my robotic interests and loves. And I get to share some of that with you today. So I'm looking forward to this a lot. And also, of course, with my master's in artificial intelligence and in machine learning, this is a really exciting topic for me. So I hope you can feel the excitement that I'm feeling as we go through these slides today.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion.
Can you hear Baymax?
I was.
Oh dear.
Hello, I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. I was alerted to the need for medical attention when you said, ow.
A robotic nurse.
As long as you guys can hear him. But this is Baymax from Big Hero 6, and I just think that he's super cute because that was I guess one of the first times that we all got introduced outside of Star Wars to like an interesting robot character. You're looking at like robots as a companion and even robots as a nurse, which is what Baymax is. Baymax is a robot nurse. He's meant to take care of you. It's a fun movie. If you haven't watched Big Hero 6, you should check it out. So where are we in terms of like AI and robotics in the healthcare space? Shay says, Baymax. Hi, Ollie. Welcome back. I'm back again. Yes, I love Baymax. Very cute. So in this space where we're at, we have three main kind of like categories that AI and robotics seem to fall in. Either they'll be doing things, independently, so like AI models on their own, or robotics applied by themselves, or you can even get a combination of the two as well, how they start to look together and work together. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be on the AI side of things. Technology, what can I say? It's great when it works. So the first one is going to be all about diagnostics. So when you start to bring in AI to the diagnostic space, you're looking at not really any prediction. You're just looking at what's there and what's the issue. So you're trying to solve problems and really find them as well. This is a really complicated thing to do, especially if you don't have that much, experience in it. So, when new doctors are trying to train, this is very important for them. And it's great to have AI models that can assist. And that's what people are working on now, looking at AI models that can do diagnostics. We won't talk much about this example, but this one is really interesting. It's from it's a retinal exam. So looking at people with diabetes to look out for little patterns in their retina that might indicate that they have diabetes. Really interesting. I think this was actually the first FDA approved AI diagnostic model. Very fascinating. The next category for AI, we have predictive analytics. So this is a time where you're looking at, okay, I'm looking at a scan, what's coming down the road for this patient? So what are the things that I can't see now, but I can see like little hints and clues that something is coming, like, something is going to be happening that the patient should either take care of now or keep an eye on as time progresses. So I'll talk more about this example today because I found it really fascinating. And then, of course, we have drug discovery. So I have this one here because I thought it was an interesting case study where this company had noticed basically during the COVID times, everybody was looking for a cure for COVID, a vaccine for COVID. And this company found out that one of their drugs was actually, well, actually, they didn't find out. AI suggested to them when it gave them about all of the different drugs that they had in the company. And they were able to determine which one would be the most likely, but if they changed it just a little bit, it could be helpful in creating a COVID vaccine. And this was the drug that they used. It was called um, berictinib. Very difficult to pronounce, but this is how they did it. So AI and drug discovery is especially exciting, and a lot of people are doing, especially startups now, are getting more into it and getting to learn like what are the nuances of that and how can they assist. So it's a really exciting time to be in the healthcare space. Let's look at the first example. So this is from the diabetics retinal exam that I was mentioning. I have a little YouTube video here to share with you. Yeah, I can see I have it on mute. Give me one second.
Introducing a groundbreaking way to detect diabetic retinopathy. This is Luminetics Core, engineered by Digital Diagnostics. It's the first FDA de novo cleared AI diagnostic system to make a diagnosis without a physician evaluating the images. Luminetics Core analyzes retinal images for signs of diabetic retinopathy and provides a diagnostic result during the exam. It's designed to be safe, effective, and equitable. One system that can positively impact the lives of patients everywhere. Luminetics Core, engineered by Digital Diagnostics.
I just thought that was a really cool video to share because it's looking at how, when you use AI, you can actually start diagnosing people and looking out for similar patterns, which is what, AI is so great at, finding patterns. Has anybody heard of this method before yet? Maybe missing out on some of the comments here. So Shay says, I think there's a very interesting case study of the use of AI where a dog owner used ChatGPT and I believe another AI tool for analyzing DNA sequence to create a customized cure for his dog's cancer. I saw that one, but I saw it after I created my slides. So I figured it could be a good little thing we can talk about later today. But I'm glad you brought it up because that was one that I saw when I was doing my research before. So let's dive into this one. So back in 2018, actually, this became the first autonomous diagnostic tool that was actually cleared by the FDA. And now it's being deployed in real world clinics as a high sensitivity point of care for screening tool. So it's actually being used to help diagnose patients, let them know what's going on, help doctors as they start to look at patients with diabetes, and they're preparing it for even further clinical implementation. So it's exciting that all these tools are being used and implemented across different larger healthcare spaces. Because I think when most people think about AI in healthcare now, if you haven't been exposed to it, you would think, okay, we're not that far ahead. Like, we're still at the ChatGPT mode. But this is a great example to show you how far we've come. And also, this is it's not a new example. This was in 2018. So it's been quite a while since we had this. It's exciting that, trends are changing and they're accelerating so quickly. The second case study. Now, this one was really exciting for me. So this one is a model called Mirai. It basically is able to predict breast cancer up to 5 years ahead of time. So the image that I have here for you is of a breast cancer tissue. And you can see the first one is about 4 years beforehand. And then it was able to predict it 4 years earlier than it was detected by human radiologists. So it's exciting that you can now use the AI to predict years in advance. So things that maybe we would have missed and she would have probably had to go through even more treatment. Now it's probably going to be a much like less intensive treatment because of the predictive tools that we have. It's really exciting. And I hope that more like, cancer clinics can work with AI researchers to see what else is out there, like what else could we be checking on and implementing and researching. It's really exciting. Did anybody else see this study? This was one of the first ones that I saw when I was, we have a neural computation class for my master's, and this was the first study that they showed us. So it's a little near and dear. Exciting. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we've turned purple. That means we're into one of my favorite sections. We're into the robotics. So let's go. Surgical robots. Exciting times. This one is actually a Da Vinci robot, one of their newer models. You can see it has 4 different robotic arms that it can use to do microscopic surgery. Really cool. Then we've got pharmacy automation. And this one is actually at a hospital in London called St. Guy's and Thomas's. And they've implemented this. So it's able to like pick out medications and then bring them to the pharmacist. So the pharmacist no longer has to spend time going through these huge libraries of medications. The robot just goes and does it for them and it brings it to them. It's really cool. In the last category, we were looking at logistics and delivery. So how can the robots be used around the hospital as they start to interact with patients and the doctors themselves and nurses? How do we want that to look? So how do we think about robots that interact with us as people? Back to the case study for the imaging, Shay says that he saw the case study and it was interesting and shows how it should become the norm for screening analysis. And I completely agree. Because if it's able to do that kind of predictive analysis, then why would we not, put it to the test, put it to use? So just one extra second. Okay. So case study number 3 is about the Da Vinci surgical robot. Now, when I was first trying to get into the whole robotics and surgery space, this was the first one that I saw. And when I first saw it, there were only 5 worldwide. And I can only imagine how many there are now. Give me one second. This slide is not what I wanted to show you. Head back. There we go. Nice and working. Got some questions in the chat. So Shay says, would this fall under normal LLM or worldview model in a sense where it can learn from thousands of images that the hospital has? Actually, neither. This would probably be more in the computer vision space. But for example, the surgical robot could definitely benefit from a world model. So rather than just looking at different pictures or videos of a surgery, it could actually be able to use the physics to simulate a human body and allow the robot to do work within that. So that's pretty exciting. Actually, I used to intern at a company called Innovis Medical where they do augmented reality surgical training. So they would probably be really interested in something like a world model. So let me play this little video in the background.
There are studies that say that kids.
So it looks so high tech. I just wanted to show you this example of an actual surgeon playing with the robots. It's like you're doing some extra training. You have to get the skills to work with this because usually, you wouldn't have to work with a high tech robot like this. So they go through training to be able to use the robot and effectively in surgery. Because they're doing it for keyhole surgery, so they make small holes rather than more invasive type surgeries. So very exciting. He's just explaining how the robot could work. This is great. So using surgical robotics, you can open up the door to things like telesurgery. So you could be in one country and then doing surgery in another one, which helps to not only like broaden yourself as a surgeon, but also opens up the door for maybe countries that may not have access to high quality surgeons. Maybe they could work and get one of these robots and then have the surgery that way. Very exciting and interesting. Shay said, "That's just a gamer hiding in plain sight. You can't fool me." Apparently, gamers are great at being surgeons because they're very like dexterous and great with their hands. Let's go to the next one. Ah, so this video is exciting as well because one, I got to actually meet this company when I was traveling to different conferences in France. So I met them in Cannes, and then again when I went to Paris. So this is a great company called Enchanted Tools, and their robots are exciting because they work in the hospitals with different patients and also with the nurses as well. So you'll see in this video some of the different tasks that they're able to do, and then we'll go into it with a bit more detail. Let's watch the video together. So, Enchanted Tools. So, one of the reasons why I love them is because they also help out with children that are going for radiotherapy, so for children with cancer. So, this is the collaboration that they did with the Montpellier Cancer Institute in France. So, they act as a companion. So, as children are going into these, big machines, they're obviously feeling scared and they don't want to go in there by themselves. So, to have a friendly, like animalistic type robot to be able to accompany them as they go in, it's just a nice way of comforting them, and of course making the parents reassured as well since their child is feeling more calm. So it's really lovely. And what's great is that they actually have a whole like show and everything with the robots as well. So these are the two characters. So they have a show with them as well where they so children can watch them before they actually get to see and meet the robot. So it's really exciting. And then the last thing is that they're being implemented in quite a few major hospitals. So you already mentioned Guy St. Thomas, which is a big hospital in London. They're usually quite on the innovative side of things. So of course they have a collaboration there, and also in Paris as well. And they have a few other different research institutes and things that they're looking into. So they're looking at bringing the robot to more hospitals and giving them more tools. So these robots work with children and also with the elderly as well as a social companion. And then as you can see from the video and from the picture on the bottom right, they help with carrying things. So the founder actually explained it when I went to the conference in Cannes, and he was explaining that they have these little like barrels that they can hold onto. And if you attach the barrels to different things, then they can actually carry and bring you different items. So you can see one's holding a tray, and one's pulling a trolley along. So there's different ways that they can interact with the different like items around the hospital and bring things to the nurses and doctors as well. So it's a great kind of application for robotics in the real world. And those of you that are also like studying robotics and looking into it, this is a great example of like that balance between like the balance of uncanny valley. So looking at robots, because uncanny valley is like that little dip of how far realistic can we make the robot without making it a little bit creepy. But these ones do a really good job because they're kind of cute. So they do a good job of balancing that realistic and animalistic kind of hybrid situation, I would call it, so that people feel more comfortable and that they're able to feel happy around them. Shay says, I remember seeing this from your reels from the convention. I'm actually more impressed on the gyromechanics of the system, especially using a ball motor for movement. Yeah, 100%. It's a little bit like R2D2 for our Star Wars fans. So if you're starting to bring in, AI and robotics into your organization or into, your hospital or your clinic, you want to think about like what are the things I should kind of consider before I start looking at bringing these in. So for me, there are about four main topics that I would want to consider if I was like, bringing this into a healthcare organization, and this is what we consider at Tombolo as like our overall general thoughts. So first things first, what's the clinical value? So if you bring this in, how is it going to help your patients? Like, is it going to be useful to them as a social companion? Maybe you're looking at a diagnostic tool. Like, how is this going to be useful for you if you're going to start bringing in AI and robotics? How complex is it going to be to integrate? Is it going to be simple to integrate with the tools that you already have? Do your employees then have to, learn something entirely new? These are things that you need to consider when you're bringing in any kind of new system, really, but especially for the robotics and the AI. They can be complex. Not everybody has the skills. So it's like a retraining system as well. So you really have to consider it. Like, what's the complexity of how you're going to integrate it? And then for regulations and safety, so you need to look at things like the FDA, or there's some other ones in the UK that you have to look out for. So keeping an eye on like what's the safety of it. So these robots are great because they're actually quite small. They're like 5, maybe 4 feet. So not super heavy and also easier to control. So the safety is quite high. Um, and then of course think about the ROI. So the return on your investment. So once you purchase these AI and robotic systems, how long will it take to actually be useful? Is it instant or will it take a little bit of time? So all interesting things to look at. Very exciting. I might just pause it here for one quick second. I just wanted to discuss it with you. So we've talked about quite a few different, robotic and AI applications so far, and I wanted to get a little bit more of your opinion of what you've seen working. Like, what do you think when you think of AI in the healthcare space? Do you feel comfortable with it, or some people are looking at the robotics and they're like, I don't know how comfortable I feel with a robot nurse." Like, is that something that you're interested in? Are you like trying to learn more about it? I would love to hear your thoughts if you don't mind dropping them in the comments. Wait just a second. If anybody has any comments or questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. I think I got some over on the other side, so let me just double check. There's my slide. Sorry, everyone, took a little second. Okay, we got it. So as we're going through the comments, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the digital divide. So I got to speak with some medical students before at Queen Mary, which was a great opportunity. And they had a lot of interesting questions. So a lot of them revolved around the ethics of AI. So for example, when you're training a model, you could look at, let me go back a slide actually. So when you're training a model, they wanted to think about what kind of data do you use and what happens when you have a lot of different edge cases? How do you handle that? So we talked about how when you're trying to train models, especially for the healthcare space, you want to make sure that you include as many different people for your application as possible. So for example, with the breast cancer model that we talked about, I really appreciated that research group made sure to include both women of different ethnicities, so like from the white ethnicity and also from the black side as well. Because, for example, black women often are more predisposed to having breast cancer, And so there aren't, but also there isn't a lot of tools and medications that are dedicated to us specifically. So one of the things I appreciated about that study was that they made sure that the accuracy of the model was equal for both white and Black women because they understood that there is a disparity there. And so they made sure that the model was sufficient across both ethnicities. So this is one of those examples where they made sure to take the time to include the data from everyone that they were going to be using this model on. This is especially important when you're going to be implementing these things in a clinical setting because you want to make sure that you give it as many, as we talked about at the beginning for the world models, edge cases and things as possible. So you want to look at everything when you're starting to implement these. Getting some comments from Shay here. So he said, I think there are some categories. My question before was, where do you think that AI and robotics should be allowed and how comfortable are you with it? So he says, I think there are some categories that should be allowed, like screening, data analysis, and such. For fully autonomous tasks like surgeries or conducting medical procedures on humans, it should retain the human in the loop aspect to prevent unnecessary complications and errors in the procedures. I don't think we're quite there yet or fully trust fully autonomous robots to do complex tasks as of yet. And honestly, I have to agree with you because at Tombolo we're also very focused on making sure that we have that human in the loop, especially when it's required for a healthcare situation like this. So you don't want to set them completely loose on their own. Like picking up a little medicine, probably fine because the pharmacist is going to check it anyway. Or the cute Murukai robot that they're bringing you the trolley. You can see what's on the trolley and what you have, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But like you said, surgeries and things like that, I don't think we're fully there to do like a fully autonomous surgery. But they're certainly training for it, and they're preparing to get there. So I think that's interesting as well. I can go back to my other side about the digital divide, because there are some, for example, countries, and sorry, my slide's not quite going. So there might be some countries, and even just like within your own city, like different organizations, you can see that some hospitals or some clinics are more technically advanced than others. So how does that affect, for example, the kind of care that you may receive? So as we start looking at clinics implementing these different robotics and AI systems, how can we make sure that they're more widespread so that everybody is getting the same level of care? So for example, with the different types of diagnostic tools or the screening tools, for example, that could be really useful in a country that maybe doesn't have as much access to doctors. They could quickly get a scan done and then also have somebody check it as well. You don't have all the experts there. Rather than sending people abroad and bringing them back home, you can check on things within your country or within your clinic. So without that, there does seem to be a bit of a divide between the people that are having access to these exciting AI tools and the people that haven't gotten access to them yet. So for example, for myself as an AI researcher, I want to make sure that the things that we're developing are going to be, openly accessible and making sure that people have access to this kind of, like, I think, really just life-changing, life-saving tools. So it's very important. And I think it's something we need to make sure we're discussing and bringing along. Any more questions from anyone? Oh, thank you. My future thoughts on it is a question from from Ms. Young. So for me, I think that for the future of AI and robotics would be to sorry, my thoughts about the future for AI and robotics would be to make sure that we are considering the impact for one thing, which would be looking at, for example, trying to bridge that digital divide. So making sure that as we're developing these models that we're giving people access to it, I can foresee things like telesurgery. So for example, if I become a surgeon, I could be in London somewhere giving surgery to somebody here in Bermuda. Or, as you're going down into making new models, we could be having prediction probably further than 5 years ahead of the future. There are some other companies like the BioHub, with Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerberg. They have their company called the BioHub, and their goal is to cure all diseases. So they're looking at using AI and other kind of screening tools to be able to do things like drug discovery, looking at different surgeries and things like that. So it's exciting, the healthcare space that we're in, and also where it could be. So I think it's a really exciting time, and as somebody involved in the AI and robotic space, I'm excited for where the future will take us. Oh, Jay says he has another question. Do you think society will ever fully trust an AI to perform critical care independently? And what kind of event or demonstration might make that shift acceptable? Ooh, that's a good question. Um, Honestly, I think that they would, fully trust an AI to perform critical care independently, but we'd have to see it done on multiple people first. There have to be people that are willing to allow that to happen to them, to allow the AI to fully adapt it. And I think that there are some people out there that might be willing to allow, researchers to do the testing first, but it's going to take a lot of different research and a lot of different, smaller steps. Like you can't just go straight from, oh yeah, here's a robot to now we're fully operating. People want to see small changes first and seeing how it adapts over time. Like it can't just be a one big change. I think it would have to be done incrementally in order for people to accept that. So just small things first, and then we can move to the fully autonomous side of things, which is kind of where we're at the moment, doing different diagnostics, learning more real world applications, especially before we can move to, that fully autonomous side of things. Move it to the Q&A side. I see. This is an exciting time. I thought we would have more questions, everyone. But in the meantime, I'll tell you a little bit more about the workshop that we have coming up, because I think that these webinars are really exciting, and some people actually ask for them to be longer. So we're looking at how we can make these more in person. So while I'm back home here in Bermuda, I thought this would probably be the best opportunity for me to really try to bring these webinars to the road, on the road, as my mom would say. So I think this is a really great chance to bring AI to people that are looking forward to it and that are excited by it. So if you want to learn more about AI, how you can implement it in your daily life, perhaps you're a founder like myself and you're looking at how can I implement this into my company, my business. We're also going to be discussing that as well during this webinar. So overall, I'm just really excited by this, and I hope that you are as well. So make sure that you watch the space and keep an eye out for it, because we'll be launching it in the next 2 weeks. The registrations will be open, and you can keep track on it by looking at our website, tomboloresearch.ai. And if there's anything that you're looking at, feel free to send it over to us also on our email, info@tomboloresearch.ai. If you'd like something more private or specific to your company, we offer that as well. So just let us know. Any more questions? Okay. Well, then I'll start wrapping up for today. So if you'd like to continue to work with Tombolo Research, we also offer different strategy sessions. So taking a look at your organization or business and seeing like how can you start to implement AI, or even just for you personally, if you're thinking about how can I implement AI for my day-to-day, we offer strategy sessions for that as well. And also support with implementation. So we not only create AI systems, but we also help you to implement them into your workspace and your organization. So we're available for that as well. And as I mentioned, we also offer different training and workshops. So again, you're just going to have to watch the space and keep an eye out, or send us an email at info@tomboloresearch.ai. And of course, check out our website, tomboloresearch.ai. So again, thank you so much for joining us at today's webinar. If you want to check out for the next one will be actually happening quite soon. So keep an eye on our social media. That's at Tombolo Research. We're on all your favorite places: Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Wherever you are, we will be there as well. So be sure to find us there. And of course, again, check out our website, tomboloresearch.ai. And I look forward to seeing you at the next webinar. Have a great evening, everyone, if there's no more questions. Have a great evening, everyone.